Page 24, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. That's a long title, ain't it? I have a few suggestions on this piece I'd like to make. We'll start with the right hand. We have to keep in mind that this is a moderately fast thing. It's starting in the second line when it actually, the first line is just like an introduction, but starting in the second line when it comes in. So kind of 1, 2, 3. So we have to keep that in mind. We're going to go real slow, but keep that in mind eventually. You're going to want it to go about that fast. In the first line on page 24, first measure is not bad, it's a rest. Second measure is not bad, we can handle that, I hope. And in the next measure, you get that little note. I'm going to play the D, the little note, with the G. And it's just a real, like so. I'm going to do all the little notes like that. I'm going to play them with the other note in that hand, with the left hand note all together. Like so. Second line, watch the fingering. Their fingering is pretty good here. Starting out 2, 4. Rhythm 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and then it's tied. 1 and 2 and 3 and. If you take out the tie, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and. Huh? Put in the tie, it's 1 and 2. Second measure. Watch the third measure. And then 2, 4. We're protecting the melody. That's the top note here. That's what we want to hear. The other note's harmony. So try and play the melody legato if you can. See if you can feel it. Too many people make the mistake, I think it's a mistake, maybe it's just a style, of depending on the pedal to help them out to connect things. And I think it really ought to be done with the fingers if possible. Sometimes you have to have the pedal do it, but it still should be done with the fingers. So here on that line, starting in the second measure of the second line, it's here. Reach down for that G, it's a G. So connect that. Third line then, second measure is fine. 1 and 2 and 3. Next one, again the little notes with the other notes. Last line. I'm going to play that in the last line, third measure. I'm going to play that grace note, the A, with the left hand G. Last measure, that's a 3 on that B, because you've been using a 2, so get a 3 on it. And then at the first measure there on 25, you got to come down real quick. They're saying a 1, 3. I think a 1, 2 is fine. Doesn't matter. It's an E and a G is the idea, and the G is the melody. That's what we want to hear. If you want to use 1, 3, that's fine too. Then it's between a phrase. There's no phrasing mark, but take my word for it. It's between a phrase, so we can have a little silence. You can lift up the hand there to go up to do that. Then it goes on about pretty much what you already had until we get down toward the bottom of page 25. In the fourth line down, look at the last measure. In these notes, 1, 2, 3, because we want this chord. If you look at the next note, the next measure, F. So we're going to do that. I think it should be a 4, but that's all right. But you're going to use the 4 on the E in the next measure. The 1, 2, 3 is fine. Page 26. Right at the beginning there on page 26. You see this? The E is tied for the rest of the measure, so you're only going to play it the one time and then hold it down. So it's, and now the G's tied, so it's like 1 and you're done. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Last measure, the first line, thumb on the C, and then fourth finger. Got to move your hand down. And it ends a phrase there, so you can lift the hand up as you move it. It's fine. A little silence is okay. Fingering's good. Takes us down to the 4th line on page 26. In the right hand, you're starting out 1-5. And then 1-4 on that one, because we need a 1-5 on the next one. Again, we're protecting the melody. Like legato, finger legato. So that's what we're after. Concentrate on that melody. Get it out there. Bottom line, first measure again, the E is tied. Not a problem, I hope. Over on page 27, 3rd line down. Well, let's just start with the first measure, the 3rd line. You're 1-5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. If you count these out carefully, you'll be okay. The left hand kind of helps because it's playing quarter notes. It's on the beat, so you can kind of line up what the right hand's doing with the left hand. It might help. Last measure on that 3rd line, it's 1-2. We're protecting the melody as the top note. You want to connect them with the fingers, so that's what we're doing. You'll notice there above that measure, that last measure, the 3rd line, there's an NC. That stands for no chord. That means they have chord symbols on above the top staff all over the place, C and F and all these other chords. That's for guitar players. If they want to play along with you, somebody's playing along with you, they can improvise and play along with you. Well, when it has no chord, it's telling them to shut up, be quiet, take a rest, don't play. So it's just you. There's nobody else playing here. Until you get to the next measure, and then it's a C chord, and they can come in again. It's a nice effect. And the last 2 measures of the piece, they're on the 2nd ending. You're ending up here. Then you're coming up, and the pedal's going to connect it for you here. And then it's here. Now there's a diminuendo E retardando. You see dim E retard? Means get soft and slow down. So it's here. There's fermatas on those 2 quarter notes in the left hand. I'll hold each of those for 2 counts each. When we do the play with me, when you do it on your own, you just hold them, whatever. Speaking of left hand, the left hand pretty much just has these broken chords all over. And you're in extended position, is fine. And I'm just transferring the weight here. I'm not using fingers, I'm just kind of doing this. Can't see it very well from up above. It's a very small motion, but that's what it is. You do move around a little bit to get other chords. It shouldn't be a problem, I hope. Let's talk about this pedal. I got some suggestions on this pedal. And I'd like to explain a little bit about pedaling so you can understand, so when you're doing other pieces, you can apply these principles of pedaling to the other pieces, maybe. At the beginning, it's simple enough as legato pedal, and they're changing it at each measure. So I'm going to push the notes down first, and then I'm going to change the pedal. And the term change the pedal means lift the pedal up, or let it up, it comes up by itself, and push it right back down. That's changing the pedal. So at the beginning, it's here. Second line, watch their pedaling. They're pedaling the first measure. And then as I play the notes in the next measure, I let the pedal up. And I don't pedal the second measure because that would blur it up. Now you got to hang on to that F in the right hand because we want to connect the melody, because you don't push the pedal down until after you play the notes in the next measure. Lift it up on the last measure so you don't blur the notes. So that line there, the second line, is that. And then next line, 3rd line, we legato pedal. All the way across. In the last line, again, legato pedal. the last measure of page 24, don't pedal that, just lift it up. And then you can pedal again, legato pedal at the top of page 25. Now lift the hands and the pedal at the same time at the end of the first line on page 25. It's like the end of a phrase. We want a little silence before we go on. We want to breathe. So that last measure of the first line is here, and go on. I'm legato pedaling the first three measures, the second line, and I'm not pedaling the last measure, because then the third line we legato pedal again. The next line, the first measure, we legato pedal. And the third measure, I would lift the pedal up on the last beat so I don't catch these eighth notes. Yeah, that's... And then the last line, first measure, don't pedal that. And then again, legato pedal. Measure on page 25, lift the pedal up after you play the first beat. So we have a little, that's by itself. Page 26, first line, we're back to legato pedaling again. With each measure, I'm changing it with each measure. Now in the first measure of the second line, I don't push the pedal down until the second beat. So in the last measure of the first line there on page 26, I lift the pedal up at the end of that measure there. Right there, when on the third beat, I lift it up. So in the second line on page 26, I'm pedaling the last two beats of the first measure. And then I'm pedaling the first two beats of the next measure. I'm not pedaling the third measure at all. And then in the last measure, I'm back to legato pedaling each measure again. Now in the third line, third measure, I would lift the pedal up on the third beat so I don't pedal those eighth notes. We don't want to smear that. Then we're back to legato pedaling. Fourth line, third measure, I don't pedal that measure. Connect the melody notes with fingers. And here I'm back to pedaling, legato pedaling, changing on each measure. At the top of page 27, I'm legato pedaling the first measure. I'm not pedaling the next measure, almost. But I'm going to push the pedal down right after I play that eighth note B flat, because I want to connect it to the next B flat. I don't want any break in the sound there. The only way to do that on piano is put the pedal down. But I'm only pedaling it for one beat in that third measure. I'm lifting it up when I play the C and the A, because I don't want to blur those. Then in the last measure, I'm back to legato pedaling again. So that line is this way. At the second line, I'm pedaling the first measure. I'm not pedaling the second measure. I'm going to pedal the third measure, and I'm not pedaling the last measure. So I'm pedaling the first and third measures, but not the second and fourth measures of the second line there. Going on, back to legato pedaling again. Third measure of the third line, I don't pedal. Actually, the last two measures of that line, I don't pedal those. Make sure you lift the left hand there. In the second ending at the bottom, those last two measures, change the pedal between the measures so it's here. It's right there. And change it again on the second beat. We want to clear this sound out. We don't want that carrying on. So it's here. And so at the end, all we have are this chord, this nice chord. Now that's the pedal, piece of cake, right? You have to experiment. You have to listen very carefully. And in order to do that, really, you have to be able to play it. You have to know it. You have to know what the notes and the rhythms are so you can concentrate more on the pedal and the sound and see if that's really what you want. It's one of the reasons we always wait till the end before we add the pedal. Learn it first without pedal and then go back and add the pedal so you can listen very carefully the full effect the pedal is having to the sound. Is that really what you want? So having said all that, let's give this a shot and see what happens. Slowly, you can speed it up on your own. I'm going to play pages 24 and 25 and then I'm going to stop. And we're going to turn the page. I'm going to count us in again and we're going to play pages 26 and 27. Now there's a first and second ending at the bottom of page 27. And because I don't want to keep turning pages, I'm going to skip the first ending and only do the second and finish it. I don't think the first ending's got anything in it that's going to throw you too bad as long as you watch the fingering in the left hand. Be careful. So that's all I'm going to do. But if you're going to play it for somebody, you got to be able to turn these pages. What do? Well, we've had to figure it out and maybe even practice that. You see the last measures are here. You may have to, in order to have time to turn the page, because if you can turn the page in 2 counts, then you can take your left hand as your right hand is doing this. Because your left hand has rest, you can turn the page there. But if that's not enough time, because this is a fast piece, or sort of fast, then you have to pretty much leave out the left hand in the last 2 measures. Just don't play it. Play maybe the first beat, and then as you finish the page in the right hand, reach up and turn the page in the left. It's unfortunate, we hate to leave out notes or anything, but the beat has to be there. It can't be hesitating or nothing. And the left hand is so busy, what do? You know. Now when you get down to the bottom of page 27 on the first ending and you got to go back, this is okay because the right hand is tied and the pedal is going to hold it out. So as you're playing the left hand on that first ending, you got time to take the right hand and turn the page back. See? Neat how that works, and then you're ready to go on. So going back's not a problem, it's going forward that's the problem. You may have to practice the page turn. Ideally, you just memorize the piece, you don't have to worry about it. Let's try this out very slowly to check notes and rhythms and all that. I haven't said a lot about rhythms because I'm hoping by the time you start playing this kind of music, you can do the rhythms. If not, I encourage you to go back to the book 1 on the method book and go through that and get those rhythms. Learn to do the rhythms. Learn to count. Now, I haven't said anything about dynamics. In this kind of music, you just kind of do your own dynamics. They're giving you an MF or a P. Generally, if there's words there, it's an MF, it's a little louder, and if it's just instrumental, it's a little softer. It's only a suggestion. How do you feel the dynamics? Once you get to know the piece, you experiment with the dynamics. Because you're going to get excited and you're going to have high and low points. You want to vary the dynamics. Don't just do it all the same all the way through. Ugh. So you experiment with the dynamics. Be creative. 3/4 time. I'll give us 3 counts. Let's try this out. Right hand, left hand, foot's on the pedal. 1, ready, go. and turn the page. Put your hands where they go and your foot's on the pedal. 1, ready, go.